No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Something is about to break.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the About to Break podcast. This is episode 82, and I'm your host, Taylor Hughes. I'm currently in Branson, Missouri. I'm sitting backstage in between shows at the Silver Dollar City theme park, which is incredible. I had no idea what to expect coming here. You know, California, Southern California is like, you know, we've got a lot of theme parks. We got Magic Mountain and Disneyland, of course, and Knott's Berry Farm. And coming out here, I wasn't really sure what to expect. And it's just been incredible. Amazing people and just a beautiful theater to get to play in for a few days. So I'm just feeling really grateful. And I'm also feeling really grateful for friends. And one of the, you know, we talk about the ups and downs of this business and entertainment and travel and all of that. But one of the huge benefits is you make great friends all over the country. And so even this week, I've got, you know, my friend Natalie came out, and my friend Josh is coming out, and my friends Bruce and Angela are coming out. And just, it's great to see the world and to meet people who live in different places than you do. And then when you go to those places, you have friends. I just love it. It's fantastic. Okay, I'm getting a little gushy. This episode is exciting for me because Dan Snyder is back on the show. Dan was on the episode with Paper Lights. Dan started that project, and he is just, beyond being one of the most creative musicians I know, is just such a wonderful human being. And it's funny, when we first recorded the show, I was so intrigued by this project that the guys were doing, where they were going to record their next album in all these national parks throughout the country. And it's so cool when you hear someone share an idea that they're going to do something like that, to, you know, months and months later start to hear some of these tracks and to be able to have tangibly the recordings of what they did by making samples in the middle of caves and playing rocks as drums, and it just incredible stuff. Dan's working on a documentary right now that I'm so excited about and can't wait to share with you guys when that comes out. But he was coming through town, and we just spent a little bit of time, 24 hours hanging out. We went to shows, we ate, we hung out, and we squeezed in a little conversation on the podcast as well, because I just, I'm grateful to have this guy in my life, and I think that you all need to know him and see what he's doing. So we'll get into that right now. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 82, my conversation with my buddy Dan Snyder. This is the start.
Check. Hey.
Can you hear yourself?
Yeah.
I love that we're okay. Hey, everybody, welcome to About to Break. I'm Taylor, and I'm sitting down right now in the World Headquarters with my good buddy Dan Snyder. Say hi.
Oh, me?
You, yeah. No,
hey.
They could say hi too, but you can't hear them.
I didn't hear anyone.
You could just believe that they're speaking to you. It's been 24 hours since you arrived at my house. And we've done so many things.
So many.
And you're about to fly out in a couple hours. And I said, let's do a podcast. And you're like, what else do we have to talk about?
We've covered every issue.
We have talked for almost 24 hours straight, yeah. I think.
We've told lies about wars we haven't even been in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Is that a saying, or did we just make that up?
I don't know.
It sounds like, I don't know if they're lies.
No.
We got into
They're true.
We're going to take all this stuff out. Dan,
Yeah.
you know Dan, guys, from the episode with the wonderful paper lights.
The one
And
I don't remember because I was definitely asleep.
you were so tired, and we did it over. We weren't even in the same country. Like, we were in the same country.
Yeah.
You were across the country in someone's bedroom, like some teeny bopper bedroom with like MXPX posters
That's
on the wall.
right. I think it was Kansas, which
You were in
might as
Kansas.
well be another country.
Yeah, and and we recorded that episode. It was a great episode, and we talked a lot about the project, which I do want to touch on because I'm so stoked about it. But I realized we never really talked about you. We didn't talk about the Dan story, which is the whole point of doing these podcasts, is talking about your story.
That was by design, Taylor.
I know you were. I realized afterward. When we first did that episode, we didn't really know each other too well. We had just been introduced via like
We were betrothed via PJ.
via PJ Colbrith, who has also been on the podcast and is responsible for like 80% of the people. PJ's always like texting me like, "Dude, you should talk to so and so. They're pretty rad."
Oh, nice.
Yeah, PJ's the best. This is an ode to PJ. Dan Snyder is a great musician and an
Thank you.
artist in so many different ways. And he's a little tired right now, folks, because you came you were road tripping from a gig, and you came from Colorado, and then you crashed in Vegas for the night, and then you live in Atlanta, but you decided to come to LA just to hang out with me.
Absolutely.
And it made my heart so happy.
It brought me a lot of joy. And then you showed me all these restaurants I didn't know about in LA.
I'm like, what have we done since yesterday at this time?
Went to a comedy routine that you set up
We went to
for
the Low Bar Variety Hour,
right.
and I kept trying to lower his expectations more and more. This is the show that we plan absolutely nothing and make performers who have great acts not do those acts.
It was so much better than a Netflix special.
Come on.
I loved it.
It was really fun, man. We had Joel Ward and Eddie Firth, and David Stryker showed up, and he just hopped up and did some stuff. And then we went to House of Pies.
Mm.
And what did you eat at 9 o'clock at night
So
last
many
night?
regrets.
What did you eat? You don't regret it at all, be honest.
No, it was I don't know why we went to House of Pies to have breakfast.
Well, because House of Pies is right by the venue, and it's open 24 hours.
Oh, okay.
And they have so many, they've got pies.
Yeah.
They've got breakfast
Breakfast burritos.
all night long. You had
you made another breakfast burrito today that definitely was better.
You're very complimentary.
Yeah?
I did not say, "Hey Dan, let's do a podcast," and you could just say great things about me.
I'll get to the rest.
But yeah, you had a breakfast burrito, and you enjoyed it in such a passionate way.
Mm. Was it gross to watch?
No, it made my heart happy because we talked about this afterward. Breakfast burritos are a California thing, I feel like.
Mm.
I've tried so many times when traveling to find one. You'd be like in the middle of the country and say, "Hey, you guys have any breakfast burrito places?" And they're like, "You mean like Jack in a Box? Or McDonald's?" No, I mean like a big old everything in it breakfast burrito.
Yeah.
Sometimes French fries instead of hash browns.
We don't have those in Georgia. The breakfast burritos that have everything in it. That's not a thing.
It's not. What do you do when you want that?
You get a Waffle House and pretend that it's all together.
Oh, do you love the Waffle House? Or is it
Love is a strong word. I would say it's a love-hate. It's necessary. It's delicious while you're eating it, but it also comes with regret.
Yeah.
And revenge.
I was in Florida. Oh, moment of silence. And I was by myself, because usually when you go to Waffle House, you're by yourself, or like one other person that's like, they're just going, "Why are we making these terrible choices?" And you're on the road. And I was in Florida, and this was maybe 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Had my first ever waffle at Waffle House. I had never done the waffle before.
What'd you think?
I didn't. It was pretty good. It wasn't awful.
Yeah.
You know, I was disappointed when I first saw them because they're very thin. You know, I tend to like a yeast waffle where it rises and it's real fluffy,
Okay.
crunchy, and then it's kind of fluffy on the inside.
Like uncooked.
No, not doughy, but like fluffy.
Right. Oh, man.
This is probably the moment where we lost everyone on the podcast. That is part of being a traveling performer, though, is that you see the inside of more Waffle Houses. Waffle Houses start to feel like home sometimes.
Yeah. And especially if I miss a flight, it does become your home, you know,
dude.
in a literal sense. It's the only place that you can kind of sprawl out on the benches and nobody's going to bother
They're
you.
not going to mess with you. They're like,
No.
we get it. We're here too.
That's what we're for.
You think you've got it bad? I work here. That's how good my life is going.
Right.
We were talking because you fly standby.
Yeah.
You're going to fly out
Sometimes.
soon. And you're flying out standby today.
Yeah.
And you were telling me you've got some different hacks about what happens when you get stuck at the airport. I need to know these. I feel like every artist who's listening needs some life hacks from Dan about what do you do when you get stuck at the airport.
I don't know. If you're not a member of the Delta Club, which I don't even know what's behind those gates.
I'm not a member of the Delta Club. I
but
belong
I know
to
it's
no
glorious.
club. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you get free food and drinks, and I don't know what it is. They say some of them have beds, which
What?
I haven't. Like I said, I've never been in one. So sometimes I'll have time, and I'll go, be like, "Hey, I signed up for this credit card, and I heard,
Right.
that this qualifies me for an hour or something." And they'll just be like, "You're right, man. Get out of here." And but you can see over their shoulder, and it looks like everybody in there is just having a great time. And they're, it's one of the key things is to find a good cell phone charger if you're stuck in an
Yes.
airport. And
That's like priority number one.
in the Delta Lounge, they are aplenty. And you can see that when you go in like there are people just lounging around on these. It looks like you're at home, enjoying an evening of Netflix in your living room. And I'm out here where, especially if you're
Out here
stuck
with
in
the
Atlanta.
peasants.
Yeah, it's like the overthrow of a third world country every day. Like people screaming and running around. It's a pandemonium.
The Atlanta airport is a crazy place. Nobody is happy at the Atlanta airport.
Nobody.
Even at the Chick-fil-A. You go to Chick-fil-A, usually people are like, they have to be like, it's my pleasure.
Right.
In Atlanta, they're like, what do you want? Get out of here. Move on.
There's no pleasure.
There's no pleasure.
Nope.
And Atlanta, it seems like, because you guys will have weather issues and stuff from time to time. And when the flights get canceled, that place is nuts. Because it's like, there's this constant influx of people coming in and coming out. But when you just have people not leaving, it gets crazy.
Yeah, they need to leave.
We all got to get out of here, guys. Have you slept at the airport a bunch on these?
I wouldn't say a lot. I mean, I've been flying standby off and on for, I don't know, 10 years.
Wow.
And I've I can count on one hand the amount of times I've slept in an airport.
Okay.
Because I've missed a flight and there's no other option.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen that often.
Oh, that's good.
But maybe I've just been really fortunate, I hear these things.
I always have that a little bit of the anxiety when you're not certain if the plane's going to take off.
Yeah.
And you're on your way to a gig. And we have this job where if I don't show up, I don't get paid. Like,
Right.
They're not paying me to just try to get to the show.
Yeah.
Have you ever missed gigs because of flights, or have you?
I haven't, but sometimes I will leave early,
Yeah.
I'll leave, maybe even a day ahead if I have to, but
Yep.
you just budget time for it, and
Right.
it's a big deal. People
Right.
complain about flying standby. Like, it's this terrible thing to not know when you're going to make the flight, but, you're going to make the flight. It's not, it's worth
Right.
what you're going to save.
Yeah.
Especially if you're flying international, you're talking about thousands of dollars.
Have you
It's like-
flown standby international?
Yeah.
Wow, because
It's easier.
you've got the family hookup,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
If you want to fly, stand by.
I don't know if I can talk about this.
Are you not allowed to talk about it?
I think you can, but there's some stipulations.
Okay. Well, let's not talk about it. Do we need to take out what we've said?
No.
Okay. All right. Wait, I know how to do this. I've seen it on the news.
What?
Allegedly. Now we're covered. Now we're legally covered.
I like that.
So, dude, you have been doing music how long?
Well, since I was a kid, but professionally for about 10 years. Well,
was
12
keys
years.
Okay, 12 years professionally. Was keys your first forte into music? Did you play piano as a kid?
I played piano as a kid.
Did you want to play piano, or was it one of those deals where like mom made you play piano?
I did play piano as a kid, and I was bad at learning how to play piano as a kid because I always had this thing where I could hear things and play them.
Okay.
And so I took lessons, classical lessons, for 6 years before my teacher finally just said, "Look, I can't teach this kid anything."
Really?
She basically quit on me.
Just because you have an ear for it and you could pick it up, but you as far as like the actual, reading music and that kind of thing was like.
Yeah, it was really difficult for me, and I learned some of it, but still never enough. So when it came time for competitions, because we did those in state, school, whatever districts, it was a really handy thing because my teacher would just play something a couple times and I could pick it up and, repeat what she was doing in a sense. And then she would teach me things like, how to insert drama into it and different types of control and whatever, I don't know, special Italian words they use.
Special Italian words. Allegro.
Forte.
Yeah, they all sound like either cars or like drugs that you take.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Get the new Allegro.
But never could teach me to focus.
Oh, one of the side effects.
So yeah, she quit on me, and
she's like, "I'm out. I'm done."
Yeah, I kind of continued to learn a bit, but
and how old were you when this happened? When you stopped taking lessons?
7th grade, maybe.
Okay.
But
you were into it. You loved it.
I loved music.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm in love with the sound of just piano or anything like that. It was never like, yeah, I love playing this classical stuff.
Yeah, you're never like, I want to be a concert pianist.
Right.
Like,
no, that's...
And what kind of probably the type of music you were listening to, some stuff's more guitar driven, some stuff is more like, atmospheric and keys and...
Yeah.
So like, what were you listening to?
Oh man, it's embarrassing because...
It's not embarrassing.
No, it's really embarrassing. I grew up in sort of, under some religious ideals about music that, I wouldn't want to say that we weren't allowed to listen to certain types of things, but we weren't allowed to listen to certain types of things.
Right. I remember being, my mom would take us to the Christian bookstore.
Uh-huh.
That used to be a thing. There was a Christian bookstore.
Yeah.
And they had a music section. And I remember they would say like, if you love Nine Inch Nails, then you should listen to POD. Or like, if you really like Bad Religion, listen to MXPX.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it that kind of thing?
No,
like,
it wasn't even that far into that. It was... my mom had some Sandy Patty tapes. Do you remember Sandy Patty?
Yes.
And I do remember, like, me and my sister both were craving melody or something so bad that we would go sneak her tapes and listen to them.
Oh my goodness.
Just because, well, I mean, and this is going to start showing my age, but it was in a time, when it's like, you may love a band's music or a specific artist, but, you'd have to wait on the radio to hear it. And
yeah. I remember waiting with a tape in the little boombox.
Right.
And when that song would come on, I'd quickly hit record so I could have it.
We did that.
That was the only way to do it.
Yeah. And
there was no on demand.
Right. If you didn't really care about anything coming on the radio station, and we couldn't afford tapes because we were children. So, we'd listen to that. And, later on, I started really appreciating movie scores. And so I would save up, all my pennies and whatever we could scrounge up, and once every few months be able to go to the Walmart and buy a soundtrack to like Jurassic Park.
Yes.
I was so into it. Yeah.
I had the same soundtrack, man. I loved it.
I would wear that out until it broke.
Yeah.
And so just listened to a lot of compositions growing up, and really didn't listen to anything else until high school. And I like that. It was a good progression.
Would you find yourself getting taken out of movies? Like you'd be at the theater or watching something, and then the music of the score like distracted you from...
Absolutely.
You just totally go into this like, that's amazing what they're doing right there.
Right.
And you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be watching this story.
Yeah. And it's pre-internet, so it's so hard because you knew you might not hear it again.
Yeah.
And you would have to really dig to find out, what it even was sometimes, much less, if it was going to be put on a disc.
Right. There was no guarantee that things would just end up being on
Gosh,
the
it sounds so
soundtrack.
old. It's like,
You're not that old. How old are you?
I'm 36.
You're younger than me. I'm 37.
Oh, wow.
See?
You remember these days.
Yeah, of course I remember these days. I remember rewinding tapes with pencils.
It's funny because
they're just swirling them around.
It wasn't even all that long ago, but things have changed so much. It's like there's nothing physical anymore, is there?
Right. Well, it did. I was talking to a friend about this who does TV stuff, and nowadays there's a million channels on TV, and everything is on demand, and you can meet someone who's a working actor who's on a show that you don't know on a station you've never heard of.
Huh.
And when we were kids, it was like, if something was on TV, it was a big deal. I remember watching TGIF on Fridays, like when what would you have? You'd have Full House would come on, and it'd be like, I have to be in front of the TV when this comes on because I don't know if I'm ever going to see it again.
Right.
That it's just such a
weird.
weird
You hit record on the VHS tape.
Right.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, my kids, I have to always tell them like one device at a time, like, because they will be in front of the TV watching a TV show and playing a video game on their phone. And it's such a different thing. I just feel like music and, before digital downloads, like there was this, people would sit and listen to music.
Yeah.
That was the activity. It wasn't something that happened in the background while you were doing other things. They would sit and watch a TV show,
Right.
And we sound real old.
Yes.
When did you know that you wanted to do music? Like, what was your first, dip in the toe into, hey, I could actually maybe do this?
I honestly never considered it to be an option. Like,
really? Even today?
Yeah, but that's for different reasons.
Yeah.
No, we grew up in East Tennessee.
Yeah.
Small town, and it just, I think the attitude in smaller places that don't have all the resources that maybe a big city have is often survival. And if you can find a job, you better keep it, even if it's at Burger King, because there's not going to be anything else.
Yeah, there's a limited number of options.
Yeah, and I was also fortunate too, because my mother's an artist. She paints murals for a living, and she's amazing. And she always encouraged us to draw and create anything. Like, she was just desperate to get us to do anything that was something you create with your hands or music, and so she was always really encouraging and got it because she went to school for that. And, so the transition wasn't that weird later on, but when we lived there, it just there aren't music jobs. There's nowhere to go get hired to play a guitar or piano. And so a lot of people that do that consider it a hobby, and we just thought, we've got to leave if this is something I'm going to pursue.
Wow. Well, how old were you when you left the area?
25.
Okay.
I think.
Wow, man. So had you settled into like a job? Like, what were you doing in 25 years old before you were like, I'm moving?
Well, first I was I was a subcontractor for FEMA.
Okay.
It was really interesting, like emergency management for just different events that happened between 2000 and 2003, I believe. And then did some carpentry for a little while, and then for a couple of years there did armored car driving, which is a terrible decision.
Was
for
it?
Life?
Was it? Were you just terrified all the time?
Yeah.
I would be scared I'm going to get robbed or like held up all the time.
It's the only occupation where criminals chase you. And they do.
Hey, everybody. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the podcast so far. I do want to take a minute and thank everyone who's sponsoring us on Patreon. We've got this thing set up over at patreon.com/about to break. And if you go there, you can, just kick a little dough in, a little thank you, $1 or $2 a month, $5. We've got some people who give more than that. We've got some people who just give $1. But it really does help offset the cost of production and travel and everything required with doing this show. And it really does mean a lot that people who enjoy free content are grateful enough that they want to help be a part of it. So I invite you to be a producer. If you enjoy the show, go check us out at abouttobreakpodcast.com. Click on the Become a Producer button. That'll take you to our Patreon page. And we're working on some more fun, exciting things, extra content to give to our patrons and our producers of the show. So thank you guys for checking that out. No more interruptions. Let's get back to the conversation with Dan Snyder. Did you really have some moments where people tried to like rip you off?
Yeah, I had 2 really memorable moments that I felt it necessary to pull my weapon out, and that was enough. Like just the sick feeling I had going home after that.
Yeah.
Was enough to just say, this isn't worth it. Like it was $12 an hour.
Dude.
And oddly enough, that was a really well-paid job where, at that time where we lived for someone my age, and just wasn't worth it, man. Like,
wow.
It was so stressful. Probably the most stress I've ever experienced. You're responsible for so much.
Yeah.
And people. So,
dude,
it was enough to make the transition. And
did you know other people who were, so because you said growing up there, like there's not even the idea that you could do it for a living or that you could make something out of it.
Right.
When you knew you wanted to leave, was it because you knew stuff was happening other places? Like, how did you hear even like I should go somewhere else? Like,
no, I think it was on a whim. So my wife Katie is a photographer, and she's she's doing a lot of things now, but she was primarily a photographer at the time, and she wanted to scale that up. And so we both just thought, well, how do we do this? And knew it wasn't going to happen in our hometown. And so the only option was to move to a larger city. So we were just, It was more than less a Hail Mary. And Atlanta was the closest place to our town. That was a major city. And I don't remember what we thought, but it was something along the lines of, well, we'll go, and if we fail, we can just come back.
Yeah.
And live with their parents or do something.
Right.
And hope to find that Burger King gig and make it
hope
work
they're
out.
still hiring.
Yeah. And so, we, nothing against Burger King, by the way. It got me through college. Love that place. But, we just moved. We didn't know anybody in the town.
Yeah.
And it was really rough for a while, but made it work.
You just parachuted into Atlanta. and then you started meeting other musicians and stuff, or like, was it kind of a, I know Nashville is what people think of as like where there's a lot of musicians, but Atlanta as well has kind of a pretty good community, or?
Yeah, it does. There are a lot of people there.
Yeah.
And I would compare it to Nashville, only replace all the twangy country music with rap.
Right.
It's just kind of the stereotype it has, and I think it's true. Yeah. But there are a lot of other people working in different genres there. And Katie got a lot of jobs really quick in photography business, and I struggled and got a job cleaning toilets at this church and started meeting people just by default. of
Yeah.
being around there. And
People are like, I need some paper.
yeah, it was great.
Jeez, buddy. And then do you remember the first time you like went out on the road with someone, like they were bringing you along to play?
Yeah.
What was
Dude.
that like?
Oh man, I thought it was the biggest deal in the world. And you know, we were just playing some clubs in Texas. I think Texas was the first place we went.
Okay. And other than the move from, Tennessee to Atlanta, was that the first real traveling you had done?
That's a good question. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I had been to Texas one other time, and that may have been the furthest I had traveled into that point.
Okay.
But yeah, I've never thought about that before.
So you go into Texas, you're playing little clubs or bars or...
Yeah, a lot of churches.
Yeah.
And I helped these guys start a band that I won't name because I'm not particularly proud of it. But
we could say everything, and I could just say allegedly. Again.
Allegedly. Oh
yeah.
So yeah, we did that. It was a great learning experience. Started to meet a lot more people, and you know how when you start to travel, it kind of compounds, and you have these friend groups everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And I think I fell in love with the traveling aspect of it as much as the music, just because of that.
Was that just mind-blowing? I mean, growing up in this small town where there's little opportunities, everybody's kind of got the same outlook or opinions.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're just like, hey, here's a whole world out there. Like,
yeah. And it was really healthy too, because I had those same outlooks and opinions. And you know what happens to you when you travel and experience how other people live is empathy. You gain, and it's not even a knowledge, I guess. You just gain an appreciation and a respect for people that are different from you.
Yeah.
And is it probably the most valuable thing that has ever happened to me through music.
Oh, that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, I forget who said it, but something about like the biggest cure for prejudice is travel. Like, you know what I mean? You just need to go see the world. Like, it's real easy to have an opinion about someone or someplace that you've never been.
Yeah.
And then you go and you're like, oh, it's great. It's
Right,
great people.
yeah.
Except certain parts of Florida.
There was
I'm never going to get invited to Florida again because of this podcast.
There's a Conan O'Brien sketch. I don't know if you remember this, but he did the state quarters. And he would put like a fake slogan on the back of the state quarters for each
I
state.
didn't see it.
And Florida's popped up on the screen once, and it had, a elderly couple driving a Volkswagen something, and it's just said, Florida, a great place to come and die.
I always thought that Florida was like exotic, tropical, like California, but like they had a bigger Disneyland.
Yeah.
And then I traveled there and I was like, oh, the weather's kind of awful. And
I think the Keys are probably really nice. I've never
probably. See, that's the thing too, is like when you're traveling and doing these shows, you don't get to always go to the nice places.
Oh, and we've always vacationed to Pensacola growing up, and really loved it there.
Oh, cool, man.
Anyway,
I'll have
not
to check it
slamming
out.
Florida. It's just
allegedly.
right,
Allegedly. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you started doing this. You were helping with the band, and then you started traveling a lot more. And I mean, you've been now. It's crazy because you've been through Europe a bunch and like done all these different.
Yeah.
Had all these different experiences, and then you started your own project.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that, if you don't mind, because like even when we did the episode about Paper Lights, we didn't even get too into like where it all began and all of that jazz. Like,
gosh, yeah, I'd always been an auxiliary player, like the guy singing BGVs or keys or doing whatever in the background, and I really loved it, and I'm still probably. It's a more comfortable position in a band, I think, or at least for me, it has been. I I was kind of thrown into singing. It wasn't something I was experienced in at all, and someone didn't
was just
show up.
You were
for a
playing
gig.
keys, and they're like, "Hey, we need you to do this too."
They threw a mic in front of me, and they're like, "Hey, you're gonna sing BGVs," and I was like, "Oh no!" And they just kept doing it, and eventually I started singing into it.
Wow.
So I was hearing, harmonies and stuff. I just
Right.
never tried to sing. It's terrifying. Like
Right.
it's so vulnerable,
Yeah. Well, and being a kid who has an ear for music and you can pick out notes, it's probably,
Yeah. So I mean, it was good that happened. But I was never one of those people that was like, "Hey, I want to be in front of people.
I got to be a front man."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember asking the first band I played with, I was like, "Hey, can we," and I was serious at the time, I was, "Can we run this cable into this closet off the edge of the stage and just have me play like backstage?
Really?
I'll watch you guys and I can just sit back there where nobody can see me. It'll be nice."
Yeah. So you didn't have this thing that a lot of entertainers have where it's like, "Hey, look at me. Look what I can do."
Yeah, I think, just never really valued the attention all that much of it. And so it's been, I don't know if it's shyness. I don't know what it is. That's always been the struggle for me. And it's gotten so much easier over the years. Like, I'm fine with it now,
It's interesting to me that some of your first music love was soundtracks. Because with a soundtrack, the music is the star. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't pick John Williams out of a lineup. I know every song he's ever written. You know what I mean? But like, the music is the star. It's not about the guy, who stands up there and orchestrates it.
It's a good analogy for it.
Yeah.
And so like art for me has always just been more about the value and the quality of the creation itself, and not necessarily just who's making it or, their celebrity.
So how did you go from being a guy who was like, "I don't want to be in the spotlight," to, making your own project? Like,
yeah, I was always scared of singing, like being the main singer on something. Like that's how it began. I was like, I probably should do something like that just because it's what I'm the most scared of. And so we had this church I'd played at for a while had a few musicians that were just kind of tired of being a cover band every week and wanted to do something, different.
Yeah.
And so we went to a friend's cabin and just decided to record anything. Like, we just made up music.
Yeah.
For 2 or 3 days. And we did that. And it's funny because PJ was there, and we didn't know how to operate.
Was he like mixing
DAW.
for you guys?
Yeah, he was just recording, and it was. I just remember that it was a fun time.
Wow.
This is a mix of that and wrecking 4-wheelers in the woods, and creating an EP in 3 days. And I don't even know how it got done. Like it didn't make
3
sense.
days.
Yeah.
That first EP was 3 days.
Yeah, the first one ever, and. It was crap. Like it wasn't meant to be something that we like show anybody.
Right. It was just, we want to do this because we want to do it.
Yeah. But for some reason I just decided to throw it on iTunes anyway. And, so we did the distribution thing, and it started getting placements for film and television. I was like, what's going on?
That's crazy.
So somebody, this guy called one day and he's like, "I'm an attorney for, Mario Lopez."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Mario's listened to your music and wants to use it for film." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about? This isn't the real world."
Yeah.
And I don't even know if that ended up happening, but it gave me this idea. I was like, okay, the internet is amazing,
right?
Because you can actually share this and somebody's going to hear it.
Right.
Like, I need to learn more about this licensing thing. And a combination of that and just being totally frightened of the idea of being in front of people and being the guy to sing music that I had written was so intimidating. I was like, I have to do this. Like, I can't not do it.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And you did it.
Yeah, I did. And it was terrifying, and for a lot longer than I expected it to terrify me.
Really?
It did. Yeah. And after a while, you become easy enough with it that you can hide it, and it's still there. And I think maybe just in the last couple of years, I've gotten to the point where that's gone, and it's like I'll still get nervous like everyone, but it's finally the point where I don't feel like I need to go like throw up before shows.
Yeah. It's you lose a little bit of that feeling like you have to prove yourself or Wow. You know, it's funny. We were talking earlier about like high school and what music we listened to.
Yeah.
And I told you that Weezer was like one of my favorite bands. But I heard an interview recently with Rivers Cuomo, who's like in his late 40s, if not older now. And he's like, I've never loved performing. He's like, I like creating music.
Wow.
He's like, every single time I have to perform, I don't get excited about it, which is so weird. Huh. It's just, it's funny how oftentimes we feel like we're the only ones who struggle with this, you know, this thing. But I do think it's cool too, where it's like, you're doing this because of the love of the music and the love of the art. It's almost like you performing is a necessity. Yeah. It's not the goal is like, you know, just to get attention or have people look at you. And I think that's why what you write is so much better than so much that's out there, because it's not, you know, look what I can do.
Well, thanks, man. That's really kind of
yeah, buddy. And so you went from making this EP and then you guys went back in the studio after that and like said, okay, let's do this with intent, or
no, not at all. I kept playing for other artists, and I still play for other artists and really enjoy, you know, being in the background. And I feel like that experience has made me better at supporting someone that is in charge, you know? Yeah. And I like that experience about it too. But no, we didn't do it immediately. I actually hung it up for a while, and you know, different musicians would comment on my solo project, as it was called for a while, and be like, "Hey, you need to keep doing that," or
more of this.
Yeah. And I don't know why, because I heard it. What? And it wasn't something I was particularly, you know, proud of, like I said. And it was just literally thrown together in a cabin in 3 days. Like, I don't think you can find it online anymore, so that's good.
You've hidden it.
Yeah. But it took a while, and I thought, well, okay, if I'm really going to do this and we're eventually going to tour it, I still wasn't keen on being the front man. So we found a girl and some other people, like 6 friends, I think, at one point to play.
Wow.
And we recorded some music, you know, with all of them, and like I would sing some of the vocals, but not all of them. Yeah. And, you know, it just kind of evolved over the years, and probably included 13 or 14 different musician friends at this point in the band. And it's always just kind of been whoever is touring with us at the moment is the band. And I hated the idea of making it a solo project ever. Yeah. And so it was easier to include people and even let them, you know, have creative control of some of it. Right. And that's really worked for us. And it's been a really cool process, because it's something that's ever changing. Right. And I can still treat it like almost as if it's a solo project and write, you know, whatever I want, and have other people play on records. And it's just been so good, because, you know, you don't have to, the schedules thing is always tough for bands. I mean, it's tough for us even using a lot of different people. But yeah, it's just been so much better than the experience would have been, I think, if it had been what I wanted it to be, which was a set group of people. Yeah.
When we did the conversation before, you guys you had just started the kind of launch of, hey, here's an idea we want to pursue. We want to go out and record an album outside. Yeah. And catch people up who, and if you haven't heard, go back and listen to the episode where we talked about Paper Lights, but give them just an overview of what this most recent project has been. And
well, I had this just massive love for outdoors, and I'd been to, a handful of national parks previously, and grew up on a campground and just had never really learned to appreciate the outdoors until, I was a little bit older. It's in recent years, just, regaining that appreciation. I was just trying to think of ways to merge a love for that with music.
Yeah.
And, so much of that has been influential in the style they've written and, where it comes from. I just thought, I wonder if we could somehow go play music in some national parks.
Yeah.
And so that evolved into, I wonder if Guinness would support us if we tried to play a show in every national park.
Yeah.
And so, do you want me to tell this whole thing? It's weird.
What? What do you mean? Why is it weird?
It's just this really long process.
People love it, right?
Yeah, it's just a long story. I didn't know if it was just rambling on.
No, you're great, man. Tell the story.
The Guinness thing.
Yeah. At first, I thought you meant Guinness beer, and I'm like, brilliant. Would they sponsor us?
So Guinness World Records has an online application, process, and you can apply and explain in detail what you want to do. And ours was play every national park in the contiguous United States.
That's awesome.
And it was a bit ambitious. I think there are 57. And we went through this long thing, and Guinness eventually comes back, I think 6 months later, and they're like, hey, we get what you're doing, but we can't make this a record because nobody can beat that record. It has to be something.
Oh, it has to be something they can top.
Yeah, and we were trying to make that a little simpler by saying we're going to do that many within a certain time period.
Okay.
And, with driving laws, and like they had a lot of rules that they created because people have gotten hurt trying to drive too fast.
Yeah.
And so they said no. And I was devastated. Like, I thought, I've already spent 6 months on this project. Like, I've got these sponsors together, these corporate sponsors willing
want to be a part of it.
And videographers, and the trip is kind of planned at this point. It's like, what are we going to do? And I don't know when I talked to you about it last, so I'll just tell the whole story. But Josh and I were talking about it, and it was like, we're both producers. Why don't we just go to the best parks that would be, the most aesthetic, iconic kind of places, and we'll take our recording gear and record sounds because we make a lot of stuff out of samples anyway.
Right.
And we'll sample a bunch of nature stuff and incorporate it into music. So that's kind of what happened.
And I wish you well, and I just wanted you to know that we're all here together to help walk each other home.
I've seen some of the footage, and then hearing the project as it's come out, it's so cool to see this is where this sound came from, and this is where it ended up on the record. And I just love it because the last time we talked, this was a concept, and you guys were getting ready to go out and like, let's see if we can pull this off.
Right.
And now you've released all this music.
Yeah.
How has it been to put something out like that where, it went from this concept, and even went from originally we're going to go try to beat this record of playing to what if we recorded?
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't the original intent. That would have never happened if Guinness said yes.
Yeah. It ended up being so much better this way.
Yeah.
Because we have enough samples for a lifetime. Like, it's kind of, I forget how many dozen terabytes we came back with after 3 months or whatever it was. Excuse me.
And it's crazy things like playing rocks, or recording the sound of wind, and then assigning it keys where you can literally like play wind on the keyboard.
Right. We have an entire drum kit made of redwood trees. They're just things hitting redwood trees, and it ended up being so cool, man. Like just the experience itself.
Yeah.
I tried to write every day while we were traveling. It ended up being kind of a challenge because with our schedule, we were trying to hit as many parks as possible.
Right.
I think we ended up with 13.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of, okay, we've got 6 hours this day to go work, and then we're gonna sleep because it's gonna be dark, and wake up and drive 5 hours to the next park.
Yeah.
And do the same thing over again. So it was almost like a tour in the rhythm of it.
Yep.
We had 4 people at a time. We transferred in and out 3 other videographers that helped with the, documentation of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was amazing and challenging. I remember waking up in the desert one day and just thinking, what does this have to do with music? Did I just drag these people
Why did I sign
this
up for
ridiculous trip? Because it was the desert,
Right.
If you can't lay in Yosemite Valley and have a thought like that, but
Right. But when you're in the desert.
in the desert. Yeah. So there's a lot of doubt and things that came along with it. But overall, it is one of the most amazing things I've ever been able to do. It's fun.
It's the project itself. It's just amazing. Our family loves the music. We listen to it constantly. My kids know all the lyrics to all the songs. And
Wow.
it is one of those things where you can't listen to it without, it's almost like, it sounds funny to say, but like it transports you to a different place.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain projects that you feel the passion behind it. And it's different than you just going into some studio and taking someone else's samples,
Yeah.
which is fine, but like there's just a different resonation to it. And I think that people need to go check it out. It's friggin' rad.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
now,
man.
like you said, you guys documented, you filmed along the way. Do you want to talk at all about the project you're working on now coming out of that? Because that to me is way
man.
exciting too. And I'm going to make you talk
You've
about
been
it.
so supportive of this. It's the next thing that I'm just scared to death to do. Is all.
I love it.
Like,
That's how you know you need to do it.
I've always enjoyed documentaries.
Yeah.
Even more than feature film or movies.
Right.
I don't know what the difference is. So as a layman in the filmmaking world, I'm trying to take all this footage from these trips and create a documentary out of it. But I've been working on it for the editing of it for a couple of months straight now, and got about 30 minutes of it edited. And one of the things really early on that we wanted was, to have it be more about the arts in general and less like a promotion for my band,
Yeah.
And so it's been really fun because we had the interview with you today, which was really awesome, and about 7 other artist friends right now that are not celebrities and are struggling, some of them, to make it all work all the time, and they're full-time in it and they're killing it, and they're talking really honestly about what their life is like and expectations as an artist. It's been really cool.
It's something that when you first, we were hanging out at that farm and you're showing me footage, and it's just like, this is needed. It's part of why this podcast exists, is that as artists, we can be in a situation where we're in crowds constantly, usually performing, usually part of the focus of the attention. And then yet, when it comes to these kind of concerns or anxiety or frustration, we feel all alone. We feel like we're the only ones. And we look on Facebook and they go, everyone else is killing it, man. They're friggin' taking vacations in Hawaii and they're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's encouraging and inspiring to see other people doing what they love and letting their passion guide them, and also being real about the struggle. Because when you sign up to do this at the level that we are all signing up to do it at, there's a bunch of stuff that comes along
Yeah.
that you got to be ready for, and you got to you know, if you're not prepared or no one else has been honest about their journey, you can feel like I'm a screw up, you know?
Right. Yeah. And it's hard, even if you know that, to not feel that way. Like, I still deal with bouts of depression,
right?
You know, and it's directly related to my occupation.
Yeah. I mean, this is a conversation you and I have been having, you know, over the past little while together, but like, what have you found? And not that there's any cure-alls, but like, what do you do when you have those moments of being discouraged or being tempted to go like become an accountant or something?
The temptation to go work in a factory for $20 an hour,
right,
is so real.
The guarantee. I laugh that like you know, people who are dentists, they like dream of, man, it'd be great to be a rock star, or man, if only I go do stand-up comedy. And then every comedian I know at some point is like, yeah, those dentists.
Yeah.
That's a pretty sweet gig.
My wife is really great at reminding me to be grateful. Because you, especially with social media, you know, you can play the comparison game all day and feel bad about what you do. Right. But, you know, if you can remember all the, like, I've hit every state in the U.S. and seen some incredible things, and, you know, some nights playing music that were so magical. I never expected to experience anything like that in my life. And I need to remember that stuff, or otherwise, like, it's just too easy to compare yourself to somebody else, or, you know, the illusion of someone else. And start feeling really bad about it. And I was having a good conversation with a friend. We were sitting in a restaurant. It was, you know, Cracker Barrel has the fireplace in it. Yeah. We're sitting next to that, and he was like, man, I quit social media. I was like, oh yeah, tell me about that. Yeah. He was like, because, you know, I don't live this crazy fancy life, but my experiences look like I do, and if I take pictures of it, it hurts people. Wow, man. And I'm sitting there the whole time he's saying this, and I'm hearing it, and the whole time I'm focused on this fireplace, and in the back of my head I was like, how do I take a great picture of this fireplace and post it online? And I was like, wow, buddy, I have to quit my personal account today. Like, this has to end. Because, you know, we talk about honesty within creativity and how our lives really are. Yeah. And I went back and looked at my Instagram feed, and was like, I look like such an overprivileged, like I am. Like, I've had these experiences, and what is this doing to someone else? Yeah. You know, when I post this, how is it making someone else feel? Maybe that's not my responsibility, but it really hit me hard that day. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Wow. And what in a challenge, you know, when you're looking at someone else's, you know, opportunities and going, man, they've got it made. Yeah. To realize someone else is doing the same thing, looking at your life. Yeah. And
you know, it's hard for us to realize, right? Because, you know, we're thinking about our views of someone else's and how it should affect us. But I think taking some responsibility in that would be really important too. Like, personally. So that's a side note.
Dude, that's so good. See, dude, you thought we weren't going to have anything to talk about. This is freaking amazing.
Thought we covered it, man.
Well, I know you got to catch a flight soon, and I want to hang out more, you know, off the record. So, since we just talked about that, plug your social media. No, no. Talk about how, you know, where can people get the album? Where can they find out more about what's going on with Paper Lights? And
yeah, you know, we have a website. It's paperlightsmusic.com. Doing a tour all the way from between Atlanta to Washington State.
Amazing.
In September. Yeah. Some parts of Canada. I'm excited about it. And yeah, the album is on our website. It will be in its entirety on you know, all the streaming places and all of that eventually. It's kind of coming out in 3 different parts there, but you get the whole record on our website. It's called Everything Is Sound.
So good.
And it's the hardest I've ever worked on a record.
I love it. I love it, man. And I love you, dude.
Love you, man. Thanks for having me. It's been
Thank
fun
you
hanging
for
out.
rerouting your schedule just so we could hang.
It was worth it.
It's always worth it, man.
Yeah.
Guys, go check out Paper Lights and go hug someone. Life is beautiful. I'm going to turn this off.